Okay, we're good.
Okay, are we live? Yes. Okay. Good evening. This is the Board of County Commissioners meeting. It is Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022. It is 6 p.m. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. To my right is Vice Chair Ty Menser. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards. Also in the boardroom is County Manager Ramiro Chavez, as well as Clerk of the Board Jamie Caldwell. We have staff present in the boardroom as well as via Zoom, as well as a guest today, Judge Chris Lanise joining us for our presentation. We'll go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Menser.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Vice Chair Menser, would you like to do a land acknowledgement, sir?
Thank you. We would also like to start today's meeting with the land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge and thank the Indigenous Salish peoples whose elders and ancestors have lived on and cared for the land and waterways of this county since time immemorial and who still inhabit the area today. Specifically the Squaxin Island, Chehalis, and Nisqually people, our sovereign tribal partners. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. The purpose of this acknowledgement is to disrupt ongoing erasure of injustices done and to remember history as a stepping stone towards healing.
Thank you. Next is the approval of the November 22nd agenda.
I move approval of the proposed agenda for Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menser?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Motion passes. We have one presentation today, and it's the proclamation for National Adoption Day. And Judge Chris Lanise, as well as Kristen Jensen, who's the Superior Court Administrator, have joined us for this.
Please come to the podium.
Thank you. I appreciate the board recognizing National Adoption Day. We celebrated it last week. We tried to get on the schedule, but I know you guys have been busy as we have as well. So we appreciate you all retroactively recognizing Adoption Day. We celebrated it last Thursday, November 17th. It was the 18th annual Adoption Day here in Thurston County, and we celebrated the adoptions for 7 families, 9 individuals, one of the largest adoptions we've had because it was the first one we've done in person in several years now. And so it was so well attended. We had overflow seating in the adjacent courtrooms for all the families and friends who were there. And so we were grateful for the Department of Children, Youth, and Families for helping us support that day. As well as the Hands on Children Museum, South Sound Reading Foundation, and others to help support the activities we had during that day, as well as the family and friends who came to celebrate those forever families. We also want to, in addition to celebrating those families, we want to recognize there's still over 1,000 legally free children in the state of Washington who are awaiting their forever families, and we're working hard towards getting them to where they need to get to. But an important step here is you all recognizing that with your proclamation, recognizing Adoption Day that happened last week, and we're very grateful for you all doing that.
Thank you. Kristen, are you? No, okay. Commissioner Edwards, is there?
No, I want to say how much I agree with you that it's very important, and I wish that it was not so difficult. I just got done helping a constituent here in Thurston County that's adopting a boy from the Ukraine country. And they're making her go through her and her family go through a nightmare. And that's coming from outside the United States. You'd think it would be easier. But even here locally, it's a challenge to go through that whole process. And I do understand the balance to be between making sure that a real caring, adequate family is selected for that child and all that. So I know there has to be checks and balances, but I wish there was a way that we could make it just a little easier. Because there's a lot of families out there that probably don't have resources that others might. So anyway, but thank you very much, Judge.
Thank you. And I also want to note the clerk's office has some outstanding family law facilitators who really help people with the process. I haven't seen international adoptions come our way, but the facilitators have been great with the local ones.
It was a headache. I can vouch for that.
Commissioner Menser?
Thank you, Judge, for being here. It's a great event. I didn't get a chance to be there this year, but I've been there in the past, and I've done a couple of these as an attorney. They're always very rewarding. I heard you say, I think before the meeting, it's one of the days in family court where everybody's really excited and walks out feeling like, it's a win-win across the board. So thank you for that, and happy to do this proclamation.
You stole the words right out of my mouth, but coming from Superior Court myself, I was always excited about this day. It definitely is such a happy day. One of the happiest things Superior Court is really able to do, family juvenile court. And thank you to you and to all of your staff who worked hard, to the clerk's office and their facilitators who worked hard for these children to really find their forever homes. So I'm ready, Vice Chairman, sir.
Okay. Thurston County Proclamation, National Adoption Day. Whereas all children deserve to be raised in a safe, stable, and loving home, and whereas more than 2,167 children in Washington are legally free and waiting for a family to call theirs forever, and whereas Thurston County recognizes the importance of finding a permanent and caring family for every child in need and supporting the families who care for them, and whereas giving a child a strong foundation, a home, a family to love, and a safe place to grow is one of life's greatest and most generous gifts. And whereas families who choose the life-changing path of adoption make a meaningful and lasting difference in the lives of some of the most vulnerable children and youth. And whereas to help these children find permanent nurturing families, Thurston County Family and Juvenile Court opened its doors on National Adoption Day, Friday, November 18th, 2022, to finalize the adoptions of local children and join other organizations to celebrate all adoptions. And whereas this effort, along with similar celebrations in all 50 states, the District of Columbia, Guam, and Puerto Rico, will offer children the chance to live with stable and loving families and encourage other dedicated individuals to make a powerful difference in the life of a child through adoption. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of County Commissioners hereby proclaims November 18th as 2022 as National Adoption Day in Thurston County, and urges all residents to join in a national effort to raise awareness about the importance of adoption, adopted this 22nd day of November 2022 by the Board of County Commissioners.
Are we going to get a picture of this? And Ms. Jensen makes the picture look a lot better, as a judge.
I think we could probably go a little bit to the center.
Perfect. All right, and 3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you. Good to see you, Christine.
Okay. This will conclude our presentation for today. And so next is an opportunity for the public to address the board. The Board of Thurston County Commissioners welcomes comments from the public. However, there are some guidelines governing such comments to ensure they are appropriate and do not take advantage of the fact that most meetings are televised. The general speaking guidelines are as follows. Please introduce yourself, including the address you reside in the county. Please address the board, not the audience or staff. Please silence your cell phones for those members in the boardroom. Speakers are limited to a total of 4 minutes to address the board. Meeting attendees cannot donate their speaking time to another person. No comments that are lewd, offensive, inflammatory, hateful, defamatory, or discriminatory in nature. Please be respectful. No outburst of any kind. No comments that are commercial in nature, such as promotion of a for-profit business. All materials provided to the county may be considered public records, subject to public release upon request, pursuant to the Public Records Act, Chapter 42.56 of the RCW. No remarks about pending land use permits or similar matters that could eventually come before the board on appeal. Thank you so much for your cooperation. I will start with members on the sign-up sheet, and then I will see if anyone else would like to provide public comment, and then we will move on to Zoom. And the county manager will assist me with calling people who have showed up via Zoom. So first on the list is John Pettit.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is John Pettit. I'm from East Olympia, and I personally will take a little bit of credit for the fact you're having an evening meeting. That was one of the things which I pushed over time, and I'm glad to see it's partly integrated. I did send a little sheet in. I think all of you should have a copy of it at this point. It's public comment, and it talks about what our different roles are, and this has directly to do with what appears to be an action which is not an approved action to be happening. First, let's talk about what the powers of county commissioners are. Individually, hate to say this, you have no power, zero. You have zero power as individuals. As a legislative body, you have the power to make ordinances or resolutions with the majority vote. And as far as over other elected officials, you have no position or authority over any other elected official. Now, the county manager, as an individual, he has none. He has no power whatsoever. Zero. He's only has granted powers then only through a majority vote of the legislature by a resolution or ordinance. If you don't have a resolution or an ordinance, there's no power given him to take any type of an action. And as far as over any elected officials, he has none. We need to keep perspective of exactly what the process is. If there's no resolution or ordinance authorizing an action to the county manager, the county managers are powerless to make decisions or authorize actions. So my question here is going to be real simple. Where and what number is an approved county resolution or ordinance that authorizes moving elected offices, assessor, auditor, and treasurer, out of the courthouse? You don't have one. This action that's going on right now is completely illegal. Now, perhaps you might decide you want to go ahead and promote one and create one, which that is a problem too, because that means you'd have to make a resolution or ordinance that would be in violation of state law 3616-090. So this is going to go for litigation. It's going to be directed. And I'm going to leave it kind of at that. I will tell you another little interesting fact for you. Every building, you might not be familiar, but every building has a certificate of occupancy. 3000 Pacific does not have a certificate of occupancy for government use. The difference is it has different requirements than a general business office, such as parking. So that's going to be an issue that goes on. I'm going to touch very briefly on another particular topic you're going to be doing something about tonight, perhaps, and that's the HCP. I have my little notes there. If approved as written, I will be appealing the ordinance. It will be appealed. The fees are by definition of case law taxes. It's illegal to tax property owner for the development of property. Here's a portion of the RCW that's in front of you, which reads it real clear. But you need to understand the proposed ordinance as written provides the HCP as being for the general public interest of the county. Collection made for general public interest is by case law considered to be tax. So it will be appealed, and we'll let a judge rule and decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Barry Halverson.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I am Barry Halverson with the Lake Lawrence Lake Management District. Today I will be continuing from where I left off during my testimony on 1 November. But before I do that, I would like to just thank you on behalf of all your LMDs for your consideration this morning at the agenda-setting meeting and pushing out the revised admin rules to the LMDs for their comments, and that any recommended changes will be embedded within that document as you requested. We were listening and will move expeditiously once we receive those rules. In May 2004, EnviroVision Corporation completed the Lake Lawrence Integrated Aquatic Vegetative Management Plan. This IVAMP describes our lake, makes recommendations, and identifies areas of responsibility. All lakes IVAMPs do this. They are very similar because they are based on best practices. I also have copies here of Long Lake's and Hicks Lake IVMPs. Here are some extracts from those IVAMPs, as I know you find the IVAMP important as we do. The LMD steering committees follow the IAVMP. Among other things, these studies found recommended actions to control aquatic plants, conduct surveys to track the status of aquatic plants, and monitor for the introduction of new noxious weeds. Continue to support the steering committee, Aquatic Plant Advisory Committee, for the lake whose function it is to make decisions annually, about controls needed and review aquatic plant management goals. Some of the areas of responsibility of this committee: review annual plant survey information and track potential problem areas, review exotic plant problems and determine the appropriate control strategy and urgency of control needed, recruit and direct volunteers for annual surveys, provide information and newsletters to lake residents, and act as spokesperson for answering questions on plant control, problems, and supporting long-term implementation of this plan. We do all of those. There are other things there, but with my 4 minutes, I had to abbreviate it. I gave you a little bit more information than what I sent you. Conclusions. In the IVAMP, lake residents will be involved in the development of the yearly plant control strategy and will be responsible for soliciting volunteers, surveys, and plant control activities. This will ensure long-term involvement of lake residents in lake management decisions and activities, which I previously talked about. Getting the citizens involved means a better, healthy lake. The IVAMP makes the steering committee responsible for these actions with support of county staff and other interested agencies. This is the intent of the RCW, as 3661 defines, and is practiced by all other jurisdictions and is the understood best practice for successfully managing lakes. These are the words of the actual experts in this field from the IVAMP, which you have correctly required all newly forming LMDs and all other efforts, and I will be referencing in the future. My future testimony will also substantiate these practices and clearly show that the steering committees are the key to success of these programs. Thank you for your attention. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Tobridge, would you like to provide?
I'm just here because I understand you have new information for me from a legal perspective, so I'll wait till after to talk with you about it.
Thank you.
I guess I could comment on that.
Okay.
I was asking Mr. Trowbridge if he could hear what you had said last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he was present in here.
Pardon?
He was present when I addressed the issue.
I recognize that, but his hearing is.
Oh, okay. I did provide that piece of information to him.
Oh, okay.
And I follow up with a phone call where he appreciated me sharing that information.
Oh, okay, great. It was the DNR information. I was just asking if
I did share that with him.
he'd got it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay.
So is there no new information?
I guess not.
You were saying,
I-
DNR was saying something different than I was saying. Is that wrong?
Well, that's apparently true.
Well, we can discuss that.
We'll get to that, Mr. Trowbridge. I just want to make sure you got your information.
Okay. And And so with that, we'll move on to Zoom.
Thank you. I'm going to be calling you based on the order that I have in my Zoom screen. First, I have Mr. Jesse Simmons. Would you like to provide testimony this afternoon, sir? You have 4 minutes.
No, sir, no comments from me.
Thank you. Next, I have Mr. Tony Wilson. Go ahead, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Yes, I would like to comment on a couple of things. First, I want to thank you for the privilege of attending the meeting, which is defined in law, but speaking at this meeting. There's nothing in our U.S. Constitution, the state constitution, the RCW, or the WAC, which says that citizens can speak directly in meetings called to govern. That's a privilege offered to us in Thurston County, for which I'm thankful. My name is Tony Wilson. I live in unincorporated Thurston County, just south of the Olympia Airport. I want to speak to something I heard in discussion this morning during the agenda setting meeting. You are being briefed on plans to implement some regulatory tools to allow private organizations to develop living situations for the homeless on privately owned property. Commissioner Edwards expressed once again the view that we might try to determine whether the folks thus served are native to this county or have been here from other jurisdictions to enjoy our compassion and generosity. He has expressed before that we needn't provide for folks that aren't native here. We all live in a democratic republic based on the United States Constitution. That document provides that all citizens of this nation, wherever located, are to be treated equally under the laws of the United States and of all subordinate governmental entities. This fundamental equality was finally litigated, I believe, before the United States Supreme Court following the events of March 7th, 1965 in Selma, Alabama. Some people may know that people from all parts of Alabama and other states were beaten severely on the Edmund Pettus Bridge and called out as outsiders and troublemakers by the local authorities. We each have the right as American citizens to be treated equally under the law without regard for the place of our birth or any other distinction that might be used to dictate that we be considered other. If we don't have those rights as defined by our Constitution, then we really have nothing. And we might as well give up our citizenship to some flawed and elitist form of government. I personally am unwilling to allow that to be done to me, nor to any other of my fellow citizens, regardless of their economic state. The concept that we're not all equal is a bit disturbing to me when it is offered as an official meeting of this county commission, and I doubt that I'm alone in that point of view. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next, I have Mr. Frank Hudick. You have 4 minutes, sir.
I'm sorry, I had no comments for tonight.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next, I have Ms. Paula Lowe. You have 4 minutes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Paula Lowe from Patterson Lake. And a year ago, I turned in our petition to form the Patterson Lake Management District to Tim Wilson. And I'm happy to see that the commissioners are going to hopefully pass the ordinance tonight to make our LMD final or almost final. I know there are a few months of work after the ordinance that they still have to do. But I just wanted to say thank you for all your help in the past year to all the commissioners. We really appreciate it, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, I have Mr. Nate Inslee. Sorry, Nate. Next, I have Ms. Nicole Wilsey. Okay. And last, I have Ms. Jane Upland.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jane Appling. I'm here also with Paula Lowe, member of the Patterson Lake Association. Again, to thank you for all the work that's gone into your consideration of our proposal to establish the Patterson Lake Management District, and to, I hope, celebrate with you tonight the passage of the ordinance establishing that district. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And that will conclude public testimony, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And just making sure that there's not anyone else who would like to provide public testimony. Okay. With that, we will move on to item 2, which is county manager's update.
I don't have any specific updates for you this afternoon.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Consent items, there's A through J. There were a couple of them that were added this morning at agenda setting. County Manager?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Since this morning, you added a couple of, actually a handful of agenda items, and that will be items 3A, where you will be considering reappointing Mr. Jay Goldstein to the Housing Authority. Also, a new item is to appoint Ms. Lisa Batsky to the Housing Authority as well. The next item is to appoint Mr. Sahid Chahudri to the Storm Surface Water Advisory Board. Next is to appoint Mr. Daniel Blood to the Stormwater Water Advisory Board as well. Then next is to appoint Mr. Ed O'Brien to the Stormwater and Surface Advisory Board. And next is to appoint Ms. Ken Parsons to the CAR PFD for 4-year term. Those are the items that you added based on your conversation this morning.
And that acronym is Capital Area Regional Public Facilities District.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, is there a motion for consent items?
I move to approve consent items 3A through 3J.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. This is not a debatable motion, so I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Mentzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Okay. Moving on to department items. First, from the auditor's office, we have a couple items, 4A through 4D. So we'll start with the first one, 4A, which is the approval of the voucher list for the week of October 3rd.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And the reason as to why you have those as a department item as opposed to the consent agenda. On the item 4A, which is approving the voucher list for October 3rd, 2022, for a dollar amount of $3,965,007.34. There is some expenditures on page 83 related to the atrium. So I'll stop there for you to consider taking an action. Sorry.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
No, not at this.
No.
No? Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve the voucher list for the week of October 3rd, 2022 for a combined amount of $3,965,070.34.
Is there, I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Nay.
Commissioner Mentzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Next is item 4B, and this is the approval of the voucher list for the week of October 10th, 2022.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Similar to the previous item, this is a voucher list for October 10, 2022 with a dollar amount of $1,364,088.42. And there are expenditures related to the atrium and on page 25.
Any questions, comments?
No.
I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve the voucher list for the week of October 10th, 2022 for a combined amount of $1,364,088.42.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Nay.
Commissioner Mentzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Moving on to item 4C, which is the approval of the voucher list for the week of October 17th, 2022.
And again, this particular voucher list for October 17, 2022 has a dollar amount of $3,723,845.07. And there are items, expenditures related to the atrium on page 24.
Any questions or comments?
No, ma'am.
I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve the voucher list for the week of October 17th, 2022 for a combined amount of $3,723,845.07.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Nay.
Commissioner Mitzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. And our final voucher list item, item 4D, is for the week of October 24th, 2022.
This particular voucher list has a total cost of $7,883,890.38. And there are expenditures related to the atrium on page 22.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
No, ma'am.
Is there a motion?
I move to approve the voucher list for the week of October 24th, 2022 for a combined amount of $7,883,890.38.
Okay. It's been moved. I'll second it. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Nay.
Commissioner Mitzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Motion passes. I was trying to find the page on the laptop. Okay, so moving on to commissioners, item 5A is to set a public hearing for 5 commissioner district boundaries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Allow me some time to give you a little bit of a background, mainly related for the benefit of the public. This particular process started back in 2021. When the Port of Olympia was considering sending to the voters a proposition to increase the Port of Olympia representation of the commissioners from 3 to 5. At that point, in July 2021, we conducted a couple of joint meetings between the two commissions, and the two commissions agreed that perhaps it was the best in public interest to consider going together and asking the voters to increase the county commissioners and the port commissioners from 3 to 5. That resulted on that resolution that was jointly enacted in December 2021 that included a contingency. And that contingency is related to RCW 3632055. And it states that as any non-charter county with a population of 300,000 or more, unless the 400,000 may cast a ballot proposition to be submitted at a general election to the voters of the county, authorizing the Board of County Commissioners to include to 5 members. That was the contingency because at that time, the county did not reach in 2021 the 300,000 threshold population. But at that point, we sort of assume that we will reach that population in early 2022. So the OFM at the state, the Office of Financial Management, updated the population for Thurston County in June 2022, which resulted in Thurston County to be at the 300,500. So that meets above that threshold of 300,000 as stated in RCW 3632055. The Board of County Commissioners passed a resolution 16181 on July 19th, where they outlined forwarding a ballot proposition in front of the voters for the November 2022 election. The Port Commission also passed a resolution 2022-07 on July 25th, 2022 to also send a proposition for the voters to consider increasing the commission from 3 to 5. Within the county's resolution included a redistricting committee. And the redistricting committee was pretty prescriptive as to what the task will be. And it was 2 voting members. It was the chair of the Board of County Commissioners as well as the chair of the Port Commission. And you had the county auditor to serve as a redistricting committee member without having a voting right. So the redistricting committee embarked on a process They started back in, let me get my notes, on August 12, 2022. And one of the first things the redistricting committee was outline a few objectives. The objectives the redistricting committee was going to be working on was achieving an equal population number by district. There will be about 60,000 per district on the 5 commissioner districts. Second objective was to maintain current commissioners in their elected districts. That would be the Port Commission as well as the county commissioners. The third objective was to follow precinct lines, avoiding splicing precincts. The fourth objective was to maintain the boundaries of the new districts to be compact and contiguous as possible. Also, the fifth objective was to maintain community of mutual interest. And last but not least, no gerrymandering. Through that process, staff supported the effort of the redistricting committee. We developed many options. The redistricting committee evaluated, made some revisions. They received public testimony, public feedback, mainly from South County. That resulted in moving forward to bringing in front of the Board of County Commissioners, as well as on the in front of the Port Commission, 2 options. The redistricting committee voted to move forward. That was option B and option C. The Board of County Commissioners, as well as the Port Commission, agree on the option C will be the best possible option to move forward. Then at that point, the process stopped, and that decision was made mid-October. And then we needed to wait until the results of the election. So as of today, I have the county proposition, proposition number 1, to increase from 3 to 5 commissioners. The yes vote is at 55.1%, and the no vote is at 44.9%. The statute requires a simple majority, and there is only a few votes left. Most likely this will be certified on approving this proposition. The proposition number 1 for the Port of Olympia, as for right now, the yes vote is at 50.93%, and the no vote is 49.07%. It is also likely that that proposition will move forward and will be certified on November 29th. So what are the next steps? The next step is for you to consider setting a public hearing, and this item is for you to set the public hearing for December 7th at 3:30 in the afternoon for you to consider taking public testimony. The next step in the process, if there is any opportunity for revisions to those boundaries presented to the public, I have already organized a meeting on December 8th with the redistricting committee where they will evaluate if there's any potential changes based on the public testimony. I do have prepare an item for you to take a formal action on December 13th. That will be your last formal meeting of the year, where you may consider approving the district boundaries as presented. So, and that begins the next steps in the process. In the next step in the process, those boundaries approved by the Board of County Commissioners, as well as by the Port of Olympia, will be submitted to the county auditor, because the statute requires the 2 new commissioner positions will be elected on the following year, following the general election. That will put us in November 2023. There will be the same process as what each of you will go through a re-election. There will be a primary election, and the primary election will be elected within their own district, and their own districts will be nominating those candidates to the general election, and the whole county will vote for those members. So the statute is very prescriptive, and it states as follows on RCW 36320554. And it states that the person elected to the position 4, that will be District 4, shall be elected for a 1-year term. And the person elected for position 5, District 5, shall be elected for a 3-year term. And there's a strategy behind this particular mandate by the statute, because that way will align with the staggered elections that you currently have. Commissioner Mensah is going through re-election, and Commissioner Mejia and Commissioner Edwards will be up for re-election in 2024. And this staggering approach will align those elections as we see it. So I will stop there if you have any particular questions for me.
No, I think that was a good explanation. No, I think that was a good explanation, sir.
County Manager, is this public hearing that we're being proposed to set required by the law?
You are not required to have a public hearing on this particular item, but as I stated this morning, I think it's prudent for you to receive public testimony on this action.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no more questions, go ahead and I'm ready for a motion.
I move to waive the 20-day public hearing notice requirement and set a public hearing on December 7th, 2022 at the Thurston County Courthouse in Building 1, Room 280 at 3:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard to receive public testimony on the proposed 5 Thurston County Commissioners District boundary lines.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Mensah?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Moving on to Community Planning and Economic Development, item 6A, ordinance for adoption of A-8 Habitat Conservation Plan. And Christina Chapeau, our planning manager, will report.
Thank you, Board. Today before you is a proposed amendment to amend Title 17, Title 24, and Title 26. These are included in the 2022-23 Official Development Code docket. This docket is a board-initiated item to adopt the Thurston County Habitat Conservation Plan and provide for the regulatory framework for its implementation. The purpose of the ordinance is to establish a local regulatory framework to protect and conserve rare, threatened, and endangered species, and establish a permitting procedures for and improving and streamlining the environmental permitting process for impacts of future development on these species. The project amends Title 17 by adding Chapter 1740 to adopt by reference the Thurston County Habitat Conservation Plan, as well as review procedures to implement that HCP. It amends Chapter 1720, as well as several chapters within Title 24, the Critical Areas Ordinance. Finally, it amends Title 26, Chapter 26.05. All of these amendments are to add references to the new Chapter 1740. The Planning Commission has reviewed the ordinance during 5 separate work sessions. They have held a public hearing on April 6th of this year to accept public testimony, and on April 20th of this year, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approving the codes and ordinances. The board has reviewed or had a public hearing on October 4th to accept public testimony, and a briefing, actually 2 briefings were held on October 13th and again on November 3rd to discuss the ordinance. The proposed amendments support Thurston County Strategic Initiative Number 7, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I do not have any questions at this time.
Commissioner Mensah?
No questions.
Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve an ordinance to amend Thurston County Code Title 17, Chapter 17.20, add Chapter 17.40 to adopt the Thurston County Habitat Conservation Plan and add review procedures to implement the Thurston County Habitat Conservation Plan and amend Title 24, Chapters 24.01, 24.03, 24.05, 24.25, 24.35, 24.40, Table 24.05.1, Appendix 24.25.1, and Title 26, Chapter 26.05, to add references to new Chapter 17.40.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
I believe in one of our earlier meetings, the county manager made a pretty concise statement that covers this pretty well. And that was that the government put us in a box. We as county commissioners did not ask that we have to deal with this problem, but we were put in that box by both really the state and the federal folks. And I don't think this is a fair ordinance. And but I do feel it's the only way to allow affected citizens to move forward in a relatively timely fashion. The alternative being they develop their own HCP at a lot of cost. And there is additional cost here, which I really feel that it's actually extortion by the government. And I would hope at some point down the road, some citizen will challenge this, because I do think it's a violation of our Washington State Constitution. And hopefully I'll be able to testify on behalf of the citizens of the state of Washington when it comes to that, because I really think this is the only way we can move forward, and I am going to vote for this under duress. But it's unfortunate that our government has put us in this situation, and that I feel no other way to get around this but taking this vote on this ordinance. And I want to commend staff for all the work that they put in on this to work within those parameters that were put in place. Whether I agree or not has nothing to do with that and the hard work that staff did. So that's my comments, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Comments?
I guess the next item is connected, and I'll just, since Commissioner Edwards touched on the fees, and I'll just combine my comments into this one particular item. You know, the county didn't spend 10 years obtaining this incidental take permit and then not to give residents a pathway for using it. And we got it in July, and the clock is ticking, and I want to give citizens that pathway. The concern has been over the fee schedule, and I just want to point out, I have in the past, but since this is kind of our final action, the county commissioners took 3 substantial steps to reduce costs to residents for use of this pathway. One was the commitment of $500,000 a year of conservation futures to subsidize the cost. The second was to do a number of tweaks to the scope of the plan that included what species we'd included, what build-out percentage we projected. We reduced the number of acres that we have to protect by a third.
Something.
I think more than a third, little more than a third, which substantially reduces our overall cost. And then third, we scaled the fee structure so that the lower cost projects, primarily in South County based, would have a lower cost proportionately. So there wasn't really anything else for us to do. We tweaked every dial we could tweak to make this acceptable to get the permit, and then actually the dollars to work out so we can actually meet the obligations. Because if we stop meeting the obligations under the permit, it's then invalid, can't be used anymore. We're back to where we started. So I don't know what else we can do. I share some of Commissioner Edwards' frustrations with kind of the system and how it's set up, but I think we've got something that we can use now, and I think it's going to benefit a lot of people. So I'm going to also support it.
Thank you. This has been a long process, and I want to thank staff. I also want to thank our Planning Commission for reviewing this, and they also accepted public comment on it. But, you know, I like the way the county manager puts it best. We were put in a box by the federal government, and this is just a pathway to give people an opportunity, you know, to either build a home or build a business. And I'll repeat some of what I said this morning, that this is a starting point. And I'm sure that there's going to be things that might change in the future as the codes and the fee schedule is implemented. But I think staff have done a great job in just bringing this proposal forward and trying to work within the boundaries that have been set by the federal government and the fee schedule that the commissioners wanted in a way of making it affordable for people who were trying to build their family homes. So with that, I'll call for the vote.
I have to make a motion, I think. Oh, no, I made a motion.
Yeah.
I did, sorry. Sorry.
Been moved and seconded.
Yeah, I don't want to
This
read
is
that one
discussion.
again.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Okay, and then we've touched a little bit on the next item, which is an ordinance proposing to adopt a mitigation fee schedule for the Thurston County Habitat Conservation Plan.
Yes. So the mitigation fee schedule for the Thurston County Habitat Conservation Plan is before you. This will adopt a fee for certain development activities that impact the HCP-covered threatened or endangered species. The HCP conservation activities approved by U.S. Fish and Wildlife on July 1st and will mitigate those adverse effects of development on those covered species within the permit area. On October 4th of this year, the board held a public hearing to take testimony on this item. The proposed start date for this is January 1st of 2023 in conjunction with the implementation of the Thurston County HCP or the ordinance just discussed. I'm going to leave it there. If there's any questions I can answer.
Questions?
No questions. I've had my say, I guess. Thank you.
Questions?
Same.
Okay, I'm ready for a
Thank
motion.
Thank you for all your hard work.
I move to approve an ordinance adopting the Thurston County HCP mitigation fee schedule.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Okay.
And again, Commissioner Edwards, I share your frustrations. So with that, I'll go ahead and call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Yay.
That's actually been 10 years that we've been.
Congratulations, commissioners. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you, staff.
Okay, item 6C, ordinance for adoption of A24 emergency housing ordinance. Leah Davis, Associate Planner, will present this matter.
Good evening, Commissioners. Leah Davis with Community Planning. So tonight, staff is requesting final action on the permanent emergency housing ordinance permitting criteria flexibility. This is an amendment to the homeless encampments chapter of Thurston County Code. It is item A24 from the 2022 official development code docket. Like the interim regulations, the permanent regulations apply to the rural county and the urban growth areas of Lacey, Tumwater, and Olympia. Staff held 4 work sessions with the Planning Commission and held a duly noted public hearing August 17th. No comments were received. The waivers in the permanent EHO mostly align with those in the interim regulations, but through the Planning Commission process, a few things were amended. Some of the waivers that vary from the interim regulations include making the public information meeting a requirement, a cap on the number of residents to a 100% increase or a maximum of 80 people. Whether or not to prohibit alcohol has been left to the host agency to decide, and added a recommendation, but not a requirement, for safe weapons storage. At the September 7th work session, the Planning Commission produced a recommendation by a vote of 7-1, with 1 absent, to recommend approval of the emergency housing ordinance. After the recommendation was made, staff had further discussions about the waiver of liability insurance. It was determined that it would be more prudent to make that standard not waivable. In a work session with the Board of County Commissioners on September 28th, Chair Casino confirmed that the Planning Commission supported this decision. So this draft includes some additional changes to the application and review process in order to add clarity for applicants or to help facilitate review of a permit application. So this proposed draft contains more details regarding the public noticing requirement, how to conduct the public information meeting. A temporary permit approval has been increased from 180 days to 365 days and can be renewed for an additional 365 days. And an appeal of permit approval would go directly to Superior Court. As you recall, we held a public hearing with the Board of County Commissioners on November 8th. By noon of that day, staff had received 11 comments, 2 in favor and 9 against. And that concludes my summary.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Edwards.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, sir.
There has been nothing added that prioritizes the ability to take care of our own tax-paying citizens that have been residents here for a long time in this ordinance. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. That's my only question. Thank you.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
I don't have questions, no.
Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve an ordinance amending Thurston County Code, Homeless Encampments and Administrative Procedures chapters within Titles 20, 21, 22, and 23 to allow for a waiver of some permitting criteria of homeless encampments during a declared homelessness emergency and to clarify the application and permitting procedures.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, sir.
My concern is, and continues to be, that we are a very caring community, and we've basically opened our doors to those individuals that want to come here in Washington State, and I use Washington State above the other states because we basically do not have any drug laws here. And so if they want to live, those folks that want to live a lifestyle that reflects this homeless activity, they can do so. They can come here and do their drugs. They can do, basically, they can live a lifestyle, whatever they want. And I'm not going to go into all the details that are affected by us encouraging folks to come from all around the United States to come here and take advantage of our hospitality. And I'm just going to boil this down. The taxpayers have spent millions and millions of dollars on this problem. The problem is most of the individuals that we're spending the most money on are not from here. They've come here because we are a welcoming community. And I just don't feel there's enough room in the lifeboat. And if we continue to keep adding people, that's the metaphor I guess I'd use, to this lifeboat, it's going to sink. So we need to have something in place that will take care of those individuals in our community that probably were taxpayers at one time and have fallen on hard times for whatever reason. And those are the people that I want to prioritize taking care of. The other folks, if we have enough, I guess, nobody's going to send them away from the food line. But we should always try to take care of our own first. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
So a couple things. One, I guess directly responsive to Commissioner Edwards, whether you agree with Commissioner Edwards or not, I'd like to give an example as to why I don't think that argument really applies to this potential tool. This ordinance, this interim ordinance has never been used, almost used once. And it was almost used once because RVs were blocking access to our emergency room in our hospital near Providence St. Peter's Hospital. The point of why we almost invoked this tool at that case was we needed to clear that so that our residents, prioritizing the needs and health of our residents, they could get access. If we had a residency requirement that we could only allow a temporary encampment for people that originated from here, we might not have been able to clear the emergency room and actually use the tool to protect the health and safety of our residents. So that whole argument, it's a broader argument. It does apply in some cases. I don't think it applies in this case. This is a much more technical tool than it sounds like. And Josh, if you have any questions about it, our director of CPED, and Leah, I'm not criticizing you. You're down in the weeds of the technical pieces of it that the Planning Commission went through. But the planning director, the director of CPED gave a pretty kind of big picture view this morning. I think that was useful. This is already something that our code allows. And so we're not creating something that's new. We're adding flexibility to that tool if there's an emergency situation, like there was when we couldn't get ambulances to St. Peter's. So I think we've never used it, but we almost used it once, and we may need to use it in the future, and we need to have this flexibility. And it's not about where people are from. It's dealing with emergency situations that are affecting, the housed residents of our community, maybe access to the hospital in that particular case. There could be other situations, but I do think we need to have this, and we've renewed the interim ordinance 7 times, and it's ready to just say, let's keep it in our toolbox. We may never use it. No harm, no foul. But if we need it, we've got it, and we almost needed it there when that situation arose at Providence.
Yeah. Go ahead.
As a follow-up to Commissioner Menser's comments, for those citizens, you can tell that we've had discussions about this for quite some time now. Over those 7 ordinances, I've been here, and Commissioner Menser's, I think, been 5 times for that. So anyway, but the reality is, if any citizen out there is interested in a pretty good explanation of how this is going to play out in our community, I would encourage you to watch our work session agenda setting from this morning. And the CPED director did a very good job of explaining how it can all fit. So I agree with Commissioner Menser on quite a bit of this, but we do have our differences. And I would appreciate those citizens that want to see a good explanation. Just take a look. It doesn't cover either one of our points of view per se. It just explains what we're up to here. And I think a lot of work went into it, and I want to thank Josh and his staff.
Thank you. I guess my comments are going to thank staff for their hard work, as well as the Planning Commission, because we did go with their recommendation and kind of the tweaks that they were able to do on it, and their input, really. And for me, it's also about a staffing issue. The way I see it, we've been renewing it every 6 months. Every time that it's renewed, it does take time from our staff. It takes time for our Planning Commission, and this will make it a possibility for staff to start working on other projects. So I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Nay.
Commissioner Menser?
Aye.
I recalled a motion.
Yeah, then we had discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I did.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Okay, moving on. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you.
Information Technology, item 7A, AOC Courtroom Improvement Grant 2022 through 2023.
Sherry,
Sherry?
can you hear us? Go ahead.
Oh, hello. Hi. Sorry about that. Sherry Ilg, Interim IT Director. This item is the Superior Court applied for and received a grant from the Administrative Office of the Courts for $250,000. And $100,000 of that is slated to provide a courtroom of the future. And the other $150,000 is for audio and video improvements in the remaining courtrooms. And this item is a request to allow us to proceed with the purchases of the equipment to meet that goal. Do you have any questions?
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Menser?
Nope, been through this one.
Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
I move to authorize the Information Technology Interim Director to proceed with purchases related to Superior Courtroom enhancements to include audio and visual systems and related cabling and installation costs. These funds are intended to be used for equipment and services related to the installation and setup of applicable equipment. The cost of these enhancements will not exceed $250,000.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Thank you. Public Health and Social Services, item 8A, waiver of competitive solicitation and contract for Big Brothers Big Sisters Mentoring of Southwest Washington. Chris Hawkins, Program Manager, will report on this item.
Good evening, Commissioners. Chris Hawkins here from bringing forward to you a subcontract from our...
Chris, could you start, oh, you cut off there for a little bit. Do you mind starting again?
Certainly. Chris Hawkins, Program Manager with Public Health and Social Services on Education and Prevention. And good evening, Commissioners. I'm bringing to you tonight for your consideration a subcontract for mentoring and youth coalition facilitation and development by the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Southwest Washington organization. This is services related to the Community Prevention and Wellness Initiative prevention services contract that we have from Washington State Healthcare Authority. And each year we work with the Tumwater Hopes Coalition as part of that overall contract. The Tumwater Hopes Coalition gets half of the funding that we receive through that CPWI contract to deliver youth substance use prevention in that community, basically the entirety of Tumwater School District's area. So benefits to a lot of young people and families in trying to prevent alcohol, cannabis, and other drug use by those young people, and as a way of preventing long-term drug use in our communities. And this mentoring effort is one of the proven evidence-based practices to support that youth substance use prevention, as is the youth coalition effort that the coalition is undertaking. And they've picked the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Southwest Washington to deliver that service again this year in that Tumwater area. So this would be retro to July 1st as allowable by the overall CPWI contract. And we are eager to have that continued service in that community, and hope that you will support this waiver from the competitive solicitation for county policy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions? Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, ma'am.
Commissioner Menzer? Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve the waiver of competitive solicitation under Section A9 of Policy 0201 and the contract for professional services with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Southwest Washington to provide a mentoring program and youth coalition development and support services to children and youth within the Tumwater School District for a total of $16,300 for the period of July 1, 2022 to June 30th, 2023, and authorize the Public Health and Social Services Department Director to sign the agreement and any amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for a vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Moving on to item 8B, MOU with Department of Commerce and City of Lacey for right-of-way hotel. Tom Webster's not here. Is Jacinda Stelgis?
Jacinda.
Okay, Jacinda Stelgis will report on this matter.
Good evening, sorry, Commissioners. Jacinda Stelgis, Affordable Housing Program Coordinator with Public Health and Social Services. So before you today is an ask to authorize or approve, a memorandum of understanding and authorize the county manager to sign said memorandum between Thurston County, the City of Lacey, and the Washington State Department of Commerce. The memorandum, I'll try not to abbreviate, is regarding the acquisition, rehabilitation, and operations of a hotel at 8200 Quinault Drive Northeast in Lacey, also known as the Lacey Days Inn. And the MOU ensures a property is operated in accordance with regional priorities and will be incorporated into an agreement between the Department of Commerce and the Low Income Housing Institute, who will be purchasing the property for use as an enhanced shelter. Lehigh Low Income Housing Institute will be purchasing that with funds provided from the Department of Commerce through the Governor's Rights of Way initiative, which is relocating individuals in Thurston County's state rights of way into a variety of other safer housing, including this enhanced shelter that is being purchased by Lehigh. And I do also want to call attention to the fact that the MOU does outline placement into the housing and prioritizes who will be placed. It does call attention to the fact that there are current individuals and households living at the hotel now that have been placed by local service agencies. And those individuals and households will remain in that housing. And then from there, again, this is a purchase that is intended to serve the Rights of Way initiative in Thurston County. So we have tried our hardest through this MOU to outline that this hotel purchase should be used for local residents who are experiencing houselessness, again, within those rights of way. And am available to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
I think as far as a question, maybe you could clarify this. You are making some attempt to take care of some of our local folks that are in a bad situation and prioritize them as to staying in or getting in. Is that right?
Yes, the individuals who are currently living at the hotel, and there's about 20 or so that we're aware of, they are top priority in terms of keeping them housed. And then from there, priority is placing within, again, the state's right-of-ways that are located within Thurston County. And then if there are any after rights-of-ways, after individuals or couples who are placed from rights-of-ways, and if there are any remaining units in that hotel, it's about 120 rooms, I believe. If there are any unfilled units, unfilled by those exiting the rights-of-way, only then would Lehigh be talking with the county about who could be placed in that hotel. So we have tried, yes, our best to do as much as we can to ensure that the hotel is available to those locally who are experiencing houselessness within the state's right-of-ways.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
Maybe for the county manager, if I could. At the time that this funding's coming from the state, right?
That is correct.
And at the time that we became aware we were going to get this funding, we were actively exploring essentially a similar purchase with Lacey and in partnership with Lacey, maybe using ARPA federal relief funds. And then essentially this stream of funding from the state, it kind of displaced that notion. I mean, I guess I want to make the point that this is connected but not connected. It's not connected in the sense that this is a totally different stream of funding and whatnot, but it connects in terms of the board's thought process and planning and strategy. It does connect because we were sort of looking to work with Lacey on something like this, and we didn't need to do that because we've got this proposal from the state on its rights of way initiative. Do I have that kind of?
Yeah, you got it correct. And in the global context, it is connected and it's related to housing. In the strategies that you outline, initial discussions on the ARPA funds because the board set aside some funding related to housing. And at that point, one of the strategies was to use ARPA funds in coordination with the city of Lacey to purchase the same hotel.
The same property.
The same property. So fast forward, the legislature through the governor's initiative, the right-of-way, state's right-of-way, we were able to, we as a region, through the Regional Housing Council, to respond to this proposal. So the county received out of this proposal just about $35 million. So out of the $35 million, $20 million is to purchase the hotel. We also, the state has invested on tiny homes on the Franz Anderson, which the county participated with ARPA funds in purchasing that property with the city of Olympia. So there's a lot of context related to the housing activities the board is supporting, and we as a staff is proposing to move forward. So what has allowed to this strategy is for you to continue to support other housing strategies with the ARPA funds remaining.
Right.
And that, I believe, is worth stating, because the second phase of Franz Anderson property requires a larger investment, a larger project with a developer, and I believe the board has set aside some ARPA funds to seed that project in the future.
Thank you. And when you said the county receiving 35 plus
the region,
not Thurston County government, that's just money coming to the region, and the majority of it is going to go to this outside outfit, I'll call them, or nonprofit, to work on this project.
But,
that money will not flow through us.
Yeah, and it's not flowing through us, and I think you heard me say this before. The government is a lousy landlord. So the approach that we took was not for the county or the city to own the asset, because it becomes a little more complicated as to how we're going to be managing it. So having this well-renowned outfit, the Lehigh, they know how to operate those elements. That's how the three-party coordination happened. So you're right, no financial flow of money comes through the county, but the county is invested in the process, if I may.
We were happy, and just to finish this story, or the point I'm making here, we were happy to see that this project could be realized without our direct hands-on involvement. Mm-hmm. But we were concerned about how, and it's really not about where people came from, but it's about placing people from out of the region into our, and that's why this MOU is so important. So this MOU gives us the best of both worlds, in a sense, because we don't have to manage this project. We get this project. We get the assurances we wanted out of this project, that, you know, local residents will be prioritized, and that will hopefully, you know, work out well for, and we can see if this project is really, you know, accomplishes what we hope. And then, you know, it could, the idea of it or the model of it could be expanded if it's very successful.
Thank you. And I also like to give kudos to the state, because over the last couple of years, as a board level, as a staff level, we have asked, where's the state in helping us address homelessness in Thurston County? So here they are. So I think it's a win-win situation. It's a way to move forward. I'm not stating here that we're going to be addressing every single homeless issues that we have in the county, but this is a good beginning, and from my point of view.
Okay.
Motion time?
Motion time.
Okay. I move to approve a memorandum of understanding between Thurston County, the City of Lacey, and the Washington State Department of Commerce regarding the acquisition, rehabilitation, and operations of 8200 Quinault Drive Northeast, Lacey, Washington, for the right-of-way initiative, and authorize the county manager to sign the MOU.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, sir.
Most of what I was going to comment on has been brought up by Commissioner Menser. And I will say it's a small step in the right direction. But it's hard to vote against the state coming forward when before they were not, and providing this resource to help solve a local problem. Although I'm hoping that we still recognize there's only so much room in the lifeboat, and try to take care of our own as the priority. Others later. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. It's been moved and seconded. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Moving to item C. 8C, Department of Children, Youth and Families, Amendment 1 to Interlocal Agreement, Amendment 22-1173-02. And Gretchen Thaler, our Program Manager, will report on this item.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Gretchen Thaler. I'm the Maternal Child Health and NFP Nurse Family Partnership Manager with Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. I am seeking approval of amendment number 22-1173-02 with the Washington State Department of Children, Youth, and Families for a total amount of $2,619,956.10. This is in addition of $1,409,549.55 to the previous interlocal agreement and extends the time period from July 1st of 2022 until July 31st of 2023. This funds community health nurses to serve families through the Nurse Family Partnership Program in Thurston, Mason, and Lewis counties. And that will allow us to serve 61 families in Mason County, 55 families in Thurston County, and 46 families in Lewis County for a total of 162 families. Nurse Family Partnership works with mothers to provide support, resources, and coaching to help families have the best outcomes. I'm open to any questions you may have.
Questions? Commissioner Edwards.
I do not have any questions, but I will have a discussion point. Thank you.
Questions? Commissioner Munster? I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve amendment number 1 to interlocal agreement 22-1173-02 with the Washington State Department of Children, Youth, and Families for an additional amount of $1,409,549.55 for a total of $2,619,956.10 for July 1, 2021 through July 31st, 2023, to provide nurse family partnership services to 162 families in Thurston, Lewis, and Mason counties, and authorize the interim director of public health and social services to sign the agreement and any amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, ma'am. I would like to compliment Gretchen and her staff. Seems like she's always finding more in the line of resources to provide more services for young people. And young people are 30% of our population, but they're 100% of our future. And so she's directly involved in guiding our future by taking care of these young people and make sure they're headed in the right direction. And I just want to say thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. That means a lot. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Commissioner Edwards.
And tell your staff that too, please.
I definitely will.
Mr. Munster? No. Okay. I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. 8D, Department of Children, Youth, and Families, Interlocal Agreement Amendment 23-1103. Passing it right back to you, Gretchen.
Thank you. All right, I'm seeking approval of the interlocal agreement number 23-1103 with Washington State Department of Children, Youth, and Families. And this is for the total amount of $22,000 and for the time period of July 1st, 2022 until July 15th of 2023. This is new funding coming to us, allowing the maternal child health staff to initiate and strengthen perinatal mental health in Thurston County. So to do this, we will expand our community partnerships, bring awareness to perinatal mental health, initiate a perinatal mental health task force, put together a community resource guide for perinatal mental health, and we've already started a postpartum parenting support group. And this group meets the first and third Thursday of the month from 1:30 to 3 at the Olympia Timberland Library, in case anybody watching would like to join us. And I am open to any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, just another good example of trying to solve the problem. Thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
Nope.
I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve interlocal agreement number 231103 with the Washington State Department of Children, Youth, and Families for the amount of $22,000 for July 1st, 2022 through July 31st, 2023 to initiate perinatal mental health initiatives in Thurston County and authorize the Interim Director of Public Health and Social Services to sign the agreement and any amendments that do not exceed 10%.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Oh, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you, commissioners, and also thank you, County Manager Chavez and Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell. I appreciate all of your help with all of this. So thank you.
Moving on to Public Works, item 9A, contract award for storm and surface water utility comprehensive study. Nate Ensley, our Senior Water Resources Engineer, will report on this matter. Nate?
Good evening, Commissioners. On October 7th, 2022, 2 proposals were received to conduct a comprehensive study of the Thurston County Storm and Surface Water Utility. Proposals were received in response to the request for proposal advertised on August 25th, 2022 in the Olympian and posted on the Thurston County RFP or RFQ Opportunities webpage. Public Works staff evaluated and scored the proposals based off the contractor's qualifications, experience, past performance, references, key personnel, technical approach, and reasonable cost estimates. The highest scoring proposal was received from Herrera Environmental Consultants, Inc. of Seattle, Washington. The Storm and Surface Water Utility Comprehensive Study intends to provide a comprehensive assessment and make recommendations for the management of the storm and surface water utility to provide an equitable program across unincorporated Thurston County, meet applicable regulatory requirements, and meet strategic objectives of the county. The total cost of the study is for a firm fixed price of $399,508.33, and all contract expenditures will be funded through stormwater utility fees under our currently adopted 22-23 budget. This action is consistent with the county's strategic plan and is in alignment with Initiative 8 to support robust and well-maintained infrastructure systems for a thriving community, and Initiative 9 to support environmental health and climate stabilization. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Isn't there some benefit from doing this to keep us in some kind of proper condition with the state? I don't know, I don't have the term, but you've referred to it in the past where we have to, something to do with the stormwater.
Is that related to the NPDES permit, perhaps,
Yes,
that you're recalling?
yes. It has something to do with keeping us in compliance.
Yeah, there is a connection to the NPDES permit.
Okay, because I think it's way too much money, but I think there's a down the road benefit. So, and besides that, it helps with one of our. I'll let Commissioner Menzer comment on that.
This has been something that we had a lot of questions about up front. I think staff has done a good job of educating me as to how we're going to benefit from this over the long run. So I'm supporting it, but I'll leave it at that.
It's strategic plan 8, I think. So.
Whether it aligns with strategic plan or not, I think could be
inside
good.
Joke.
Could be good.
Well vetted in public.
I have to let the public know that we try to make this as light as we can, and we have our opinions, and sometimes they differ, but we try to make it cordial.
Okay. I don't have any questions, so I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve the contract for a storm and surface water utility comprehensive study to Herrera Environmental Consultants, Inc. of Seattle, Washington, for an amount not to exceed $399,508.33, and to authorize the Director of Public Works to execute the contract.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer.
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia.
Aye. Moving on to item 9B, interlocal agreement with the City of Rainier for sports courts amenities. Mike Lohman, our road operations manager, will report on this. Mike?
Good evening, Commissioners. Thurston County Parks and Trails owns a trail corridor that traverses the city of Rainier. Through a strategic partnership, Public Works and the city of Rainier propose to construct improvements within this Yelm-Rainier-Tenino Trail Corridor right-of-way near Wilkowski Park. Improvements will include 2 pickleball courts, 1 tennis court, a concrete walkway, picnic table pads, and the associated storm drainage, lighting, fencing, and other appurtenances. The city will manage all planning, design, construction, and project coordination. Once constructed, the city will be responsible for ongoing operation, maintenance, and upgrades to the sports courts amenities necessary to ensure their safety, function, accessibility, and purpose. Public Works will contribute $250,000 from park impact fees to support the construction of these improvements. An interlocal agreement with the City of Rainier has been prepared to document this agreement. This interlocal agreement has been approved and executed by the City of Rainier. Public Works is requesting the Board of County Commissioners approve the interlocal agreement between Thurston County and the City of Rainier. This action is in alignment with the county's Strategic Plan Initiative 8 to support robust and well-maintained infrastructure systems for a thriving community. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions? Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer? I'm ready for a motion.
Move to execute an interlocal agreement between Thurston County and the City of Rainier for improvements within the county's Yelm-Rainier-Tenino Trail Corridor right-of-way to include sport courts amenities.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
I'll just say that the leadership in Rainier is very excited about this. We hear from them pretty regularly through Steady and whenever I run into cross paths with the mayor, and it's going to involve tennis and pickleball. They're very excited about what it could bring to their community.
Yes, I know this has been a long time coming. I'm glad that we're finally here. I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards.
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer.
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia.
Aye. Item 9C is interagency services agreement with the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife for maintenance of the Boston Harbor restroom and parking lot.
Thank you, Commissioners. Through a partnership between the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife and Thurston County Public Works, restroom facilities and paved parking are available to the public when using the Boston Harbor boat launch. The boat launch and small gravel parking lot adjacent to the launch are owned by Thurston County and maintained by Thurston County Public Works. The small gravel lot holds approximately 5 to 6 vehicles without boat trailers. The Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife paved parking lot across from the boat launch provides approximately 12 single vehicle stalls and room for 5 or 6 vehicles with boat trailers. In addition to the paved parking lot, there is an existing concrete restroom. Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife does not have adequate staffing or resources to maintain their restrooms and parking lot. In 2021, Thurston County Public Works entered into a 2-year interagency service agreement with Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife that funded the services of Parks and Trails operations staff to maintain the restroom and associated parking lot under the ownership of Fish and Wildlife. Parks and Trails staff incorporate the maintenance of this restroom with the maintenance at Burfoot Park, which is approximately 3/4 of a mile away. The minimal maintenance requirements of the Boston Harbor restroom and parking lot enable Thurston County Public Works to provide these valuable resources to the public. Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife and Thurston County Public Works propose to extend the 2021-2022 cost-sharing agreement for these maintenance services. Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife agrees to pay Thurston County Public Works the sum of $6,000 for 2023
and $6,240 in 2024 for costs associated with the maintenance of the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife owned parking lot and restroom. This interagency services agreement is consistent with the county's strategic plan and is alignment with Initiative 2 to improve community health, wellness, and safety, Initiative 8 to support robust and well-maintained infrastructure systems for a thriving community, and Initiative 15 to diversify county revenue sources to guard against economic cycles. I'm happy to answer any questions on this as well.
Questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, no questions for me. I'm ready for a motion. Did you have questions?
Well, I'd have to question that last strategic initiative alignment suggestion, because to diversify revenue sources in order to, if we're taking on contractual responsibilities that cost more than the amount we're getting paid, that's not really a diversification of a revenue source. That's actually disadvantaging us, but that's that'll be a conversation for another day. I move to approve an interagency services agreement between Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife and Thurston County Public Works, and to delegate authority to the Public Works Director to sign the agreement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Menser brought up a really good point this morning, and County Manager reported that this is something that we're going to be looking into, especially our parks, and being able to fund the staffing needs that our parks require is definitely a touchy subject for all the commissioners. There was some discussion on that this morning, and some really good points that Commissioner Menser brought up for anyone wishing to view that this morning. With that, I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menser?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Our final department item, item 9D,
Last but not least.
is an ordinance creating Pattison Lake Management District number 23. And Tim Wilson, our Water Resources Manager, will report on this. Tim?
Good evening, Commissioners. Tim Wilson, Water Resources Manager, Thurston County Public Works. Staff is here tonight requesting the board consider an ordinance creating Pattison Lake Management District number 23 in accordance with RCW 3661. On June 21st, 2022, the Board of County Commissioners adopted Resolution 16168 declaring its intention to form Pattison Lake Management District number 23 and set a public hearing for July 26, 2022 to consider comments from affected property owners on the proposed new district and its work plan. After considering comments submitted during the public hearing, the board adopted Resolution 16187 on August 16, 2022, which attested that the proposed district is in the public interest and resolved to submit the question of its establishment to a vote of all affected property owners within the proposed LMD boundaries. The BoCC specifically found that, 1, the proposal was in the public interest as evidenced by property owner interest and the proposal's conformance to county's policies and regulations. 2, the financing and budget of the proposed LMD were feasible and sufficient to fulfill the district's purpose and accomplish its proposed work plan. 3, the proposed LMD also avoided adverse impacts to fish and wildlife and enhanced habitat for fish and wildlife. Ballots were mailed to all property owners in the proposed Pattison Lake Management District, listing property by parcel number and listing the proposed annual assessment for each parcel. Of the 576 ballots that were mailed, 257 valid ballots, or 44.6 of the total, were returned. Pursuant to RCW 3661, ballots were weighted by the charges proposed for each parcel. Ballot results were as followed.
144 ballots returned as yes, resulting in 71,334 weighted votes. 113 ballots returned as no, resulting in 26,067 weighted votes. The vote on the proposed Patterson Lake Management District number 23 was affirmative as outlined by RCW 3661, which allows the county legislative authority to adopt an ordinance creating a new LMD if a proposed LMD receives a simple majority of returned votes in favor of the new district. And with that background, I would answer any questions you may have.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
Tim, if the board approves this ordinance, what is the next step for the process?
There would be several steps left in the process. Staff would immediately begin to work on the roll of assessments, which is a list by parcel of the category that parcel falls within and the charge that property owner would be assessed. We would go to work in making sure that since the time that the petition was submitted, there haven't been any changes in ownership, sales, that type of work. The next board action, staff would be back in front of you in the next few weeks asking you to set a public hearing as required by law for you to hear comments from those affected ratepayers on their property and hear any objection to the classification and the charge associated with that. Following that, there are several more administrative steps, and I think the most recent estimated timeline would have us crossing the finish line in early February.
You might have said this, and I apologize if you did, but how much time did the folks have, like from the mailing out to the ballot, to the deadline for the returning the ballot that we just went through?
So the board, let's see. Board authorized the vote, passed the resolution, authorized a vote of the public on August 16th. We began LMD voter outreach on the 17th of August, and the voting period was open until the 4th of October.
So, well, can I clarify? So when you say we began voter outreach on the 17th, let's just say I'm property owner X.
Yeah.
When would I have definitely, when's the latest I would have found out that this was happening, I needed to vote? Would I have gotten something in the mail? Would I have seen a poster at the?
Ballots went out September 6th. So you would have received that in the mail.
A day or two later?
Yes.
Okay, so about a month, 30 days essentially.
Yeah, roughly a month.
Okay. I'm just curious because a regular election, people kind of know they're coming, right? You know, like I know that if I snowbird or whatever, or I'm spending the summer in Alaska, I know that primary elections in August, general elections in November, if I want to exercise my right to vote. These sorts of things somebody might not have seen coming if they were out of town for a long time. Just curious.
Yeah.
Most people have to check their mail monthly or they get in trouble with.
Yeah, definitely. And to that point, this is a continuation of a process that involved a public hearing where individual property owners were mailed those notices as well. We try to be very methodical about posting information on the website and continuing to point them back to that website so they could track the process and have the information throughout the process.
Okay.
Thank you. And Tim, just for, this has been a long process, and the proposed maps, those were set by the LMD, correct?
That is correct.
And then the assessments were as well?
That is correct.
Okay. With that, I I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve the ordinance creating Patterson Lake Management District Number 23 in accordance with RCW 3661.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
No.
Okay. I want to thank Tim and his staff for all of his work with the creation of this. And with that, I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Edwards?
Aye.
Commissioner Menzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. That will conclude our department items. Moving on to our standing items. Item 10A. Commissioners will report on board work sessions and assigned committee meetings, providing updates on actions taken, as well as upcoming issues. Commissioner Edwards, we'll start with you.
The airport issue was probably my top constituent concern. Still, some of this virus affecting young people. The Habitat Conservation Plan is we voted on tonight, and then participation through Zoom with our annual WASC meeting. That's it for me, ma'am.
Thank you. Commissioner Menzer.
Okay, well, we've had a couple of weeks. I did have to miss the last board meeting. I was ill, and thank Commissioner Mejia for covering a lot for me. I know that our longtime executive director there, Mike Strube, is retiring, and so Matt Kennelly was a very able replacement that will be taking the helm at lot. I was able to get to the Wasatch County Leaders Conference, spend a day doing public health service director interviews, attended a Salmon Recovery Council meeting last week, steady meeting last week, so I got to everything I could, given my health status. So,
Thank you. And we're glad you're feeling better, Commissioner Menzer. Okay, for me, I attended the County Leaders Conference from Wasatch. It was very informational, and thank you to the Washington State Association of Counties for gathering up some speakers. I know Robin Campbell, our very own Assistant County Manager, was one of the panelists for the ARPA funds, so very proud moment there that one of our very own was speaking on how we've been doing with ARPA and delegating those funds out. I've been attending the canvassing board meetings. It is the time. And thank you to Commissioner Edwards, who will be covering the Tuesday certification for me. And then I attended the Department of Natural Resources beneficiary meeting for the carbon project. So with that, the county manager will review the Board of County Commissioners schedule for the week of November 22nd, 2022.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to walk you through your schedule, combined schedule for the next 3 weeks, since the next Tuesday board meeting is canceled.
Thank you.
Beginning nothing for the rest of this evening. Give you a break. Tomorrow, Wednesday, on November 23rd, at 9 in the morning, you have a briefing related to the Nisqually Tribe broadband coverage survey. They were working with the tribe. Thursday, November 24th, the county is closed in observance of the Thanksgiving holiday. Friday, November 25th, the county is closed in observance to the Native American Heritage Day. Moving on to Monday, November 28th, nothing on your combined schedule. You may have individual appointments on your individual calendars, however. Tuesday, November 29th, nothing. The agenda setting has been canceled, as well as the Board of County Commissioners has been canceled. Wednesday, November 30th, 9 in the morning, you have a briefing related to compost procurement ordinance. On 3 in the afternoon, November 30, you have invited to attend a I-5 study listening session. And at 5 in the afternoon, you have been invited to participate on the legislative reception dinner, and that is going to be located at South Puget Sound Community College 2011 Mudman Road in Olympia. And I believe Commissioner Gary Edwards will be the only one who will be able to attend, along with Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell. Thursday, December 1st, you have the Regional Economic Forecast and Innovation Exposition that will be located on the Great Wolf Lodge at 20500 on the Old Highway 99 in Centralia, and that will be between 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. Nothing, you combine the schedule on Friday, December the 2nd. Moving on to Monday, December 5th, and Tuesday, December 6th, you have public hearings related to the 2023 budget amendment. And it is very prescriptive. They will begin the public hearings at 1 in the afternoon and will most likely be concluded at just about 7 in the evening, both days, December 5th and December 6th. On Wednesday, December 7th, you have an all day to go through budget deliberations based on the public testimony you received the prior 2 days. Also on December 8th, you have budget deliberations if needed. On December 9th, I have a schedule for you, a day-long planning session, and an agenda will be posted 24 hours in advance at least. On Saturday, December 10th, you have been invited to participate on a community meeting with Summit Lake residents. Monday, December 12th, you have invited to participate at 5 in the afternoon, the executive seminar for senior and elected officials, and that is going to be located in Thurston County Emergency Management, ECC, at 9521 Tilly Road Southwest. And Tuesday, December 13th, you will convene here on your regular agenda setting, and you will have your last regular meeting of the year on December 13th. However, you will have not a special meeting, another meeting just to approve the budget on December 16th, which is a Friday. And that's all I have for you.
Thank you. Any questions on that?
No questions.
No, got it.
With that, I wish everyone a happy and safe, happy Thanksgiving, and
Commissioner Mejia,
yes.
may I have just a few minutes?
Yes.
I just want to state an observation. As I've sat and watched this evening's meeting, it seems like you've done some pretty momentous things today. You've set a date to take public comments on expanding to 5 commissioner districts. You've entered an agreement with the state and the city to take steps toward addressing homelessness. You've approved purchases to create a courtroom of the future. You've approved a habitat conservation plan that we've been working on for a decade that provides a path forward for development while at the same time protecting endangered species. You've established a new lake management district. Even your routine items tonight affect people's lives, and you have maintained access to government through enabling us to attend this meeting on Zoom with a hybrid option that many counties are no longer doing. So it's been quite the meeting, and I just want to say, in a week when our nation is reminded to give thanks for all of the things that are good in our lives, that I am thankful to work for a board that shows leadership on the big topics, and our county manager who supports you in doing that it's all done in good humor, and that I'm proud to work with staff who move things forward for the benefit of our citizens in our community. So just wanted to say thank you and to wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Robin.
Nicely done, Robin. Thank you.
Thank you. Got me all teary-eyed right towards the end.
Thanks, Robin. Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, it is 7:53. We're adjourned.